So what is going on, guys? Today I'd really like to touch on the European Call of Duty scene and the EU Regionals in particular. Obviously they announced yesterday that G-Finity are going to be running it, and for the second year in a row. Fair play to them. G-Finity are like headlining European Call of Duty esports, and they're growing it to such a massive scale. I'm not quite sure who decides on the format of EU Regionals, and this is going to sound like, I'd just like to say before I get into this video, before I get into the debate, I'd like to just say that although obviously I'm from the UK, so this is bias. You guys are going to portray it as being biased towards the United Kingdom. Maybe some of you guys out there are going to say, oh, because they might not qualify for Call of Duty Championships, they're worried, whatever. But regardless, if I was a spectator, if I was a caster, this is going to be my opinion on European Call of Duty. It's never going to change. It's been the same way for years and years and years. It's always been the way I've believed it should be. And I'd just like to say that obviously the format's not going to change this year. I do feel like I need to complain. Like, if no one complains about the format, it's just going to continue to be the way it is. You've got to complain. Like, I love what G-Finity and I love what the Call of Duty, like the Activision are doing and hosting this Call of Duty Championship every year. But the way that it's hosted in Europe, I believe is unfair towards like certain teams and certain individuals. I believe that there's teams that have missed out every year. That I made it last year. I was in TCM. We obviously won EU Regionals, and but there was teams in there in the UK section that I believe could have represented Europe better than some of the other teams that attended. Same thing goes for France. There was French teams in there that could have represented better than teams that ended up attending the Call of Duty World Championships. I think that the way it should be, guys, is the bit like. Oh, and a lot of people say like it's a World Cup, you need to have representatives from every other country, but that's not the way it works in sport. Like in the actual physical World Cup, that's not the way it works. And you get the qualifiers for the World Cup, and the best teams from Europe will qualify and represent Europe at the World Cup. Same goes for every other region. And then you look at esports as well. You look at League of Legends. You're not going to get a team from, let's just give a spot to Sweden, let's give a spot to Poland, let's give a spot to every one of these countries, let's just make it about the nationalities and whatnot. They give it to the three best teams in Europe. If those teams are from those respective countries, fair play to them. They should be representing Europe at the World Championships. The best possible teams should be there. To grow Call of Duty esports in Europe, you gotta get high placements. The more top quality teams that are there, it makes that a higher possibility. And I think that there's teams that just go there every year for a free ride to Los Angeles, and it's completely unfair. There's some teams, I'm not naming any names because I don't want to hurt anyone, but there's people who put in no effort, no time, and just because they're from a specific country, they know every year they can take whoever the fuck they want. They're going to be going to the Call of Duty World Championships in Los Angeles. I think that's complete bullshit in the way it works. I'm not a big fan of the format. I hope it changes in the future. That's why I'm making today's video. I'm very passionate about this, obviously, as you can tell. So for example, if you look this year, there's going to be teams like when we beat Infused, they're going to miss out on the Call of Duty World Championships. Although I do personally believe that they are better than every single other team that's going to qualify for every other single region. Same goes for likes of the Tech versus Aware matchup, Barrage versus TCM and Sours' team versus Epsilon. I think that all those teams could potentially represent Europe at a higher level than what is going to be represented. And that's not the format they have in North America. They have the best teams there attending the event. I think that obviously it's less nations, and a lot of people have said that to me. United States and Mexico and Canada is only 3 nations, whereas we've got 8 nations qualifying from the European region. I understand that, but nonetheless, I think that representing Europe as a continent, you should have the best teams there. If that team is French, fair play to them. If that team is Swedish, if that team is Finnish, whatever, those teams deserve to represent Europe. And I do believe the format needs to be next year. I think that it should be the way it is now, so all the teams get their own qualifiers, like the likes of Holland, etc. They all get their own qualifiers, and then they come into the EU Regionals, and then it's just the top 14 teams, top 12 teams, whatever, that qualify. They represent Europe at the Call of Duty World Championships on the worldwide stage. I think that's the way it needs to be. I think that's, like I said, the current format just isn't fair to some people that put in a grind every single day to potentially not qualify. They've literally dedicated their lives to this shit, and there's teams that just go for the free ride to have a little booze up. Do you know what I mean? It's just I think for example, Shane will agree with this. He last year He wasn't in a top team any longer. He was searching for a team at this point in time. He created the Lightning Pandas brand and went to the Call of Duty World Championships for a laugh. And they qualified because they played in the Russian qualifier. I think they had pretty much an easy win to go to LA, and he was going out there, and I mean his team were actually not that bad. I don't even want, like, I used them as an example, but do you know what I mean? They went in with the mindset just going for a laugh. It wasn't that serious, but they were a good team nonetheless. They had good players: Shane, Necrome, Random, and I can't remember his last name, but the other guy, and like I said, they were a good squad, but they just went. They didn't put all their effort in. Whereas there was other teams like Infused, like Aware, that missed out last year, that put in a lot of time into the game, that really consider themselves a top contender to do well at the Call of Duty World Championships. I think that if you want Europe to do better at these international competitions, you have to have the best teams that are in that respective region representing them. And like I said before, guys, a lot of people compared it to sports and esports, saying that, like, the only sport really that I can think of off the top of my head, there's probably more, that every single nation is represented is the Olympics. And I'd like to see that change in the future, guys. Hopefully, if any of you guys agree with me. Obviously, I know a lot of the foreign guys that maybe those guys that are getting the free trip are probably going to disagree. But I'd like to know your guys' opinions in the comments below. Give the video a like if you agree. Obviously, it's something I'm very passionate about, guys. I don't really do many videos recently. I've been sort of focusing a lot on Call of Duty, grinding as much as possible, making myself a better player, making my team a better team, and focusing a lot on that and on my team. And I've not been streaming as much as well. I apologise for that. I'm going to be doing it more often. Not going to be streaming S&D tournaments though. So if it's an S&D tournament night on Gfinity, don't expect a stream. We'll be streaming respawn tournaments. I just want to keep you guys interested. But obviously content is important to grow Call of Duty esports in Europe as well, so I don't want to like sort of make that dry out. I'm going to try and be consistent as possible, as much as obviously trying to give my team the best possible chance of qualifying for the Call of Duty World Championships and then doing well once we get there. So anyway, guys, like I said, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all later. Good night.